New fallout over the State Department Inspector General's report concluding that Hillary Clinton violated federal rules and refused to cooperate with the investigation into her email server. Well, now Clinton's Democratic rival, Bernie Sanders, zeroing in on the issue, saying Americans and Democratic superdelegates should read the IG's report.
The Inspector General just came out with a report. It was not a good report for Secretary Clinton. That is something that the American people, Democrats, and delegates are going to have to take a hard look at. But for me right now, I continue to focus on how we can rebuild a disappearing middle class, deal with poverty, guarantee health care to all of our people as a right.
Joining us now, former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu. He's also former Chief of Staff to President George H.W. Bush and the author of The Quiet Man. And Governor, thank you for being with us today.
Morning, Greg. Hope you have a very meaningful Memorial Day.
Thank you, and you too as well. Last fall, famously Bernie Sanders dismissed the Hillary Clinton email controversy, saying he'd heard enough of it. Why the about-face now?
Well, it wasn't quite an about-face. He certainly addressed it, but he's telling everybody to go read it themselves. In politics, that's not going to have an impact. If Bernie Sanders wants to take advantage of what is truly a horrible report for Hillary Clinton, he's going to have to talk about some of the details himself out there. Homework assignment doesn't do it.
Well, we'll take a look at the details ourselves because I read the report, and it basically puts forth that Hillary Clinton has not told the truth in 5 principal ways, and here they are. We'll put it on the screen. Number 1, she said, everything I did was permitted. The IJ said, no, it wasn't. She violated federal records law. Number 2, I did it for convenience. Well, the IG found no, she did it to keep her emails private. Number 3, I'm more than ready to talk to anybody anytime. Untrue. She refused to be interviewed. 4th, it was allowed by the State Department. The IG said, no, it wasn't, and had she requested permission, it would have been denied. And finally, she said there were no security breaches. In fact, her personal server was shut down twice because of hack attempts. Unclear if they were successful. I mean, it's one thing not to tell the truth 1 or 2 times, but Governor, 5 times?
And the whole reason for not telling the truth 5 times was that their intention was to create a system that could hide everything they did and everything they communicated from public eye, public scrutiny, and any review, even of historians. And so she should be condemned not just for the 5 lies, but for the intention behind those 5 lies, which was a deliberate effort to hide things.
Well, she and her campaign over the last several days have made the following argument in defense of the IG report. G. Colin Powell did the same thing. Well, first of all, he didn't. He didn't have a private email server in his own home used exclusively for all of his State Department business. And second, I mean, even if he did, Governor, isn't that like saying it's okay for me to rob the bank because, other people rob banks?
Well, the first point you raised is the most important one. Colin Powell used the State Department system for virtually all of his official business. He occasionally used an AOL account, as I understand it, but the predominance of his communication was through the State Department system. The AOL account was where he did predominantly his private communications. Mrs. Clinton built a system and hid the system. We have to underscore that. She hid the system so that nobody ever would be able to get access to what she was doing. And frankly, she wanted to keep it away from the Freedom of Information Act, which people would probably apply during a presidential campaign. She thought she would get away with it, but she's getting her fingers burned.
As you know, President Obama said Secretary Clinton's acts were not intentional. But I'm looking at the statute right here in front of me, and it speaks to not intent, but gross negligence. Given what the IG has found, and who knows what the FBI has already found, does that strike you as gross negligence on the part of Secretary Clinton?
It is, but the IG report actually talks about intention and says her intention was to set up a system that had limited access. And limited access means I don't want Freedom of Information Act access to what I have here. So even her own argument and President Obama's very thin protection of her is really not going to cut it.
Governor John Sununu, again, thank you for being with us this Memorial Day. Have a safe and healthy Memorial Day.
You too, Greg.